Hello everyone, it's Chris here, and I'm finally going to be doing my review of Destiny. And, well, I know that some people have already spoken about it, some people have had their opinions about it, some say it's great, some say it's not, a lot of people say it's really in between, but this is my view of it. This is me as a level 24 right now. I've actually upgraded to level 25 now. I've managed to find a couple of legendary items, and in actuality, I've actually managed to find an exotic. I managed to find, what was it called? The Jealous Raspberry. It's a hunter class exotic item, so it's yellow. And I managed to find it off of a legendary engram. And I actually looked it up. This sort of thing only happens 1% of the time. So I got extremely lucky with that. But I'm telling you this because I want to put the point across that I've actually been putting some time into this game. This is not some sort of rush sort of thing. This is something that I'm talking about sort of from the heart. I'm talking about based on my experiences, my repeated experiences in this game. So I hope that I can properly get across what I'm trying to say without trying to sound biased at all, because I'm still playing this game, I'm still enjoying this game, but here are my thoughts on the matter. I started Destiny with the beta, and if you see my videos about that, you'd see some of the stuff I had to say about it. My experience with Bungie games in the past, like the Halo games, is I expected going into this game to have a awesome world, awesome characters, great dialogue, witty dialogue, and a large variety sandbox of weapons to play around with, because these are the sort of things I got with Halo. And I have to draw the comparisons with Halo because that's the only other game that Bungie has actually made. So if you think that the comparison's unfair, that's really all I have to base on, because that's all they made in the past, and Myth doesn't really count because it's not a first-person shooter. And Myth came before Halo, of course. So, like I said, going into it, I expected all these things. And the first couple hours of this game, I have to say, was something of a grind to me. And the reason which is, it played very much identical to the beta. And that may not have been a good thing, because I've already gone through the beta, and I already experienced all those things, and I had to play all those prologue missions again. And around that time, I realized that there's no option to skip any sort of cutscenes or skip any sort of small sort of times in between the gameplay and all that, or skipping any dialogue. So I realized that it's mostly there to cover loading times. So it was very much the same. There really was no sort of difference, and I'm playing on Old Russia in this clip just to solidify this sort of thing. It played very, very much the same from the beta, and I don't think that's really a good thing, because a lot of the things that we found before were already in the beta. Now, I mentioned in my mid-game thoughts video, where I was playing on Venus, that there were sections of the game that were blocked off by higher level enemies that were to a point so high that you couldn't even face them. And I was thinking that those sort of things would help us explore some more of the area. And unfortunately, in my explorations of the area, it turned out to be just empty or random, because those are where item crates spawn. And that had me a little bit disappointed, because I thought we were going to be going in with a little bit more than what we saw in the beta. Now, each planet has varied environments, sure, but after a while it sort of feels the same, because you're going around and just going from objective to objective, where you're just doing patrol missions and all that. And that's not really a bad thing, but there's really no incentive for you to go and check it out, because you have this big open world sort of a misnomer, because there's plenty of corridor crawling in this game, and you think that you can go somewhere, or it gives the impression that you can go somewhere, and this isn't really the case, because you'll constantly be faced with invisible walls, or the turn back signs, notorious turn back signs from Halo Reach that we didn't really like. So those are minor sort of things sort of came up all over the place. And it wasn't necessarily specific to Old Russia, because there were times on Mars when I thought I could explore the rest of the city that was out in the dunes, and I had plenty of invisible walls in the way, or fog walls, which were very obviously enemy monster closets. So moving on from that, I think that the main issue that I had with this game was the story. And I'm a big story guy. I really enjoy story. And going into Destiny, we were promised from Bungie that this was going to be a game that we could put alongside Game of Thrones and Harry Potter and Star Wars as legendary stories. I mean, that was in the tagline, become legend. Legend implying a great story. And the setup was great. It gave us, well, it gave us an idea of what we were going to be expecting. Like, you were a guardian, a knight of this thing called the Traveler, and you were basically brought back from the dead to fight on their behalf and restore order to the galaxy and something like that. And going in, I thought I would get a little bit more snippets from the story too, story from all the characters. Like, Bungie, if you're not familiar with the Halo series, there's a lot of backstories, a lot of lore. Like, oh, Halo has lore. Well, yeah, actually, it does. If you just check out the wikis and all like that, there's books, freaking anime, and backstory where you never even expect, going back at least 100,000 years in the universe's timeline. So, my thought was that they would craft something like that for this game. And the shame of that is that the foundation's there, the potential's there, but we're not seeing the execution in this game. It seems that something I was upset with is that nothing is explained to us in this game. Is we see something and we're not told what it is, or it's only alluded to, or it's only briefly mentioned by Peter Dinklage's character in the level transition cutscenes that we can't skip. Now, one would think that if we're trying to go into these dangerous sort of areas, that we would be explained, that it would be explained to us who the Fallen are in detail, who the Cabal are, who the Vex are. I mean, we apparently knew about these things beforehand, but we're not going to explain to the player character. And I say player character without not a named character because your character has no name. And normally that wouldn't be such a bad thing because in these MMO type environments, your character really doesn't have a name or anything like that. But you can't even name your character. Your character might not be referred to, but you can't even name it for a personalization sort of thing. This sort of diminishes the idea of the epic story that focuses around your character. You're made out to become legend, like you become legend. I'm pointing at the microphone right now. Like, you become a legend. You are the chosen one or something like that. I'm not really one for chosen one stories, but that seems to be what they're really going on with here. And like the simple fact that you can't even name your character shows that there is not really an emphasis on you. You are not really important in the grand scheme of things, or in the way that Bungie is describing them. You seem to be an observer to all the other events, because everything else, all the cutscenes, all the dialogue seems to happen around you, but doesn't really seem to involve you. Like, when you notice when you're on the patrol missions here, is whenever you take them, Peter Dinklage always accepts them, and when it's over, Peter Dinklage, Ghost, always says that he's going to talk to the people back at the tower. He's going to be the one that it tells them the job's done, or he's going to hand off like some important stuff to them. Then you are only relegated to just going around and actually grabbing these things, nothing more, nothing less. Now, these characters in the game that they have a lot of good voice actors in there. They have Nathan Fillion in there. They have Peter Dinklage in here. They have John DiMaggio in here, and among a whole bunch of other voice talent that we never actually even get to hear speak, outside of maybe a couple of the cutscenes or the level introductions and stuff like that. And that's a shame, because I feel that they could have utilized more of this voice talent in their work. And that they're only relegated to, say, like the Grimoire cards. If you read the Grimoire cards, which I actually have because I tried to get a grip on the story, it's the story that doesn't make any sense, by the way, because, and I'll get to that in just a second. But going back to the voice actors and all that, then they only appear in the Grimoire cards in things that you would expect to be cutscenes or some sort of dialogue that would occur between your character and the Vanguard or the other guys around the tower. We don't get that. I'm not sure why we don't get that. I mean, there's a stellar voice cast, star-studded even, and you're not using those resources that you managed to pull into the game. Why? It's baffling, really, why you don't. But going back to the story was the biggest gripe for me, because all these things seem to be so generic, seem to be so storybook, and maybe that's sort of the thing, because it was originally supposed to be like a medieval sort of styled game. But like, who are you? You are the Guardian. Who do you work for? The Traveler. Who are you fighting? The Darkness and their cohorts. The Vex, the Hive, the Fallen, the Cabal. Everything's a the, or something like that. I guess it's carried over from Halo when you were fighting the Covenant. You were the chief. But I expected something to be like a little bit more, a little more creativity. It just seems like some of the names like are so, not exactly generic, but well, maybe so in, like in the case of the Vex, where you're fighting goblins, hobgoblins, and stuff like that. Like, get your science, get your fantasy elements out of my science fiction game and stuff like that. You could really see that there was sort of a conflict between the setting of the game. And I guess that really is the core of my problem here. What is Destiny? Is Destiny a massively multiplayer first-person shooter? Is it a first-person shooter with RPG elements? Is it a loot-based shooter? Is it a social shooter? I don't know. It seems that Destiny seems to have identity problems in some way, because it can't figure out genre and it can't figure out its style. Because when you're going around, you're trying to find loot, which doesn't come up nearly often enough, or like it's a first-person shooter that with MMORPG elements, and you would assume MMORPG that's very social elements, but there's not a lot of sociability in this game. Now, Bungie highlighted that this sort of game was supposed to be played with friends, so that implied a big social element to it. It implied that you would have ways to talk, ways to trade, and ways to display emotions, matchmake even. But these features that I thought would have been the ones that they would focus on the most in this game were not here. There's not even a way to actually chat with the people that are in your fire team. What is that? What is that? So I can't even talk to the guys that I managed to get together with. And we're trying to fight the strike bosses and all that. I can't even talk to them unless they're even in my own party. Why can't I do that, man? Why can't I just have some basic conversation in the tower? Why can't I just choose to talk to someone? And it forces me to have to go into the party to actually do something like that. That's not a very good thing to do. Like, if you're trying to highlight sociability, you can't even use proximity chat. When proximity chat was something that they had in Halo, talking to your own teammates, so far as I know, I haven't heard anyone talk in the Crucible yet, but I'll get to the Crucible in my next video when I finish up this review here. It confuses the hell out of me to think that this game had such ambition to have such a focus on talking, trading, sociability, and all that, but then none of that was in there. I can't give another gun to someone, or I can't talk to my group mates without having to step out of the game, create a party, invite to party, and doing all that stuff. I do get emoticons though. I do get macros, which is like a simple wave, pointing, dancing, and sitting down, all of which are pretty useful. But you can use them on, you can use them on when you're on your hover bike though. Like, you can use your hand signals using the D-pad and all that. But it really, what's the point? You're not going to be looking at the person like in front of you for a hand signal or a hand gesture and all that. And yeah, chat, voice chat. Why not voice chat? Why not? That really would have helped. And I leveled up in this group here. This is one of the things that I actually really liked about the game, is the concept of like the concept of the factions, the concept of joining together with the other parts, like the New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, and the part which I'm part of, which is the Future War Cult. And that's good because, well, you can purchase different sets of armor, different weapons, and different emblems and stuff like that. Emblems are kind of really not all that important, especially after I learned that the motes of light that I've been getting after hitting level 20 are really only useful, with the exception of Zor, just for buying special emblems from the speaker. And well, that sort of diminishes their importance a little bit now, doesn't it? But the factions are good because it allows people to sort of identify, to have sort of like in-game meta allegiances. So if you want to role play or something like that, if there is any role-playing opportunity with this game at all, which I kind of doubt given the content and the fact that we actually can't communicate with other people. Do I want to spend down like 20 motes of light just to have an ability to have a special emblem from everyone else? I don't think so, because I don't really give much of a damn about the emblems. So I've pretty much bitched enough about the negative, but I'm going to talk about the positives. The positives of the game, which this game does well, really well. One is the artwork. Oh my goodness, this game is beautiful. Every single planet that I've been to seemed to have its own identity when it comes to an artistic sense. Every skybox was great. I found myself stopping and looking at the sky, watching the clouds go by. On the moon, there's a giant space station that's hanging in the air. There's satellites flipping all over the place. In Venus, you have like the clouds of acid rain, and when you're on Mars, you have one of the moons which is shockingly close to the planet, and the other one that's rising up over you, and it has a halo when it's nighttime. It's beautiful. This game is artistically great. I can tell that they put a whole lot of effort into that, and that it was just really, really good for them. The sounds are great too. The sounds are fantastic. When you're on the Sparrow, it sounds really cool. It sounds like it's really meaty. It sounds like that there's good acoustics to everything. Like the gunshots are really good. Like you have the enemies, and the enemies are good. They have their own speech all over the place. Although I have to question the the artistic design, because when you're fighting like a group of aliens called the Cabal, they seem to resemble a certain military space Catholic Nazis, if you know what I mean, because they have giant body armor, they fight for an emperor, and they carry a weapon that looks conspicuously like a bolter, and have psionics. Psionics, which I must add, also look a little bit like jackals. Just look at them, seriously. But going back to the positives about it, like I talked about the skybox, but I'm talking about the sounds. I'm talking about the movement. The movement is really, really, really good, and it reminds me a lot of Titanfall with the ability to double jump and control these double jumps if you so choose, and it even allows you to triple jump if you want to. Moving around on foot is great, but moving around in vehicles is even better. I find myself using the Sparrow a whole lot of the time because it's so fast, it's so fluid, and it just works great. It's actually really cool to actually move around, to be able to pivot around. I actually consider it even better than a Ghost because it allows you to laterally strafe while you're boosting and all that. It doesn't have any weapons on it, but that's okay. And the other vehicles you get are pikes, which are kind of ghosts, and a thing called an interceptor, which is basically like a tank. That was really, really cool. Another thing that was also really nice is, I don't know, it's like this. It's kind of like the feeling of getting good loot, like the feeling of actually getting like a legendary engram, which happens every now and again, or getting a rare engram, which is really, really cool. And you can't beat that feeling. Like when I got my exotic body armor, it's like a feeling that can't be beat. Like all those hours you put into it was worth it. But that's a problem here because this game is a grind. It really is. You're watching this video right now, and I'm choosing this video specifically because this is it. This is the game here. This is it after level 20. Unless you decide to go into Crucible, this is essentially what you're going to be doing after level 20. You're going to be replaying missions over and over and over again, just to build up experience, just to build up faction loyalty, just to level up, just to be able to buy better weapons and all that. That is Destiny post level 20, unless you're willing to go to the raid. I haven't been able to go to the raid yet, but if I need to make another video for that, I will. But that is the thing. This game is a grind. It's a fun grind, but it is actually a grind. And, well, make of that what you will. I'm going to continue this review in my in a second part that details the multiplayer. But yeah, I'm hoping to get I got explosive rounds for that gun now, and it felt really good to get that. But I'm going to continue this in the next part for this review that details the multiplayer, and there I'm actually going to be giving it a proper score. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and catch my next Destiny video part to finish this up. This is Actual, and I'm signing off. Enjoy your games, my friends.